for another episode of FYC Film Review. Welcome, everybody. I'm your host, Gagne. With me, my partner, Naldo. How are you doing, buddy?
How's it going, everybody?
Oh, we're going to scare up some fun today.
We went back to 1982. I was 2 years old. And you were one.
I was a baby, a wee baby.
Oh my gosh, the movie is Poltergeist, directed by the master himself, Tobe Hooper, written and produced by Steven Spielberg,
The
though.
real man.
Yeah, this movie was rated PG
I know.
because PG-13 wasn't even around back then, but this was rated PG. This was what PG was in the 80s.
Great knowledge, great knowledge. And we'll get into some finer details of why I have an issue with it being PG, but
Well, I mean, come on. It should not be PG.
it shouldn't have
in
been
the first place.
PG, and honestly, I kind of wish they would have left more of the R rating in there. And I don't know, maybe not Spielberg did a little bit too much, maybe.
Oh, okay. Did you grow up with this movie?
Yes, this movie
Me
scared the
too.
shit out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably because we grew up in the era where TVs were prevalent in your household and being haunted and just being in your home and having that happen to you in your home, your safe space, like
Yeah.
that's and clowns and all the shit that like they do to you visually in this movie. It got me as a kid.
I think the subtleness and the buildup is really good in
Mhm.
this movie because it doesn't, nothing happens right away. It's very subtle, very little, and it builds up. And I think that's where Spielberg comes in with the storytelling, with the writing of the movie. And I
Mhm.
think it's great. I think it's great. I have some issues with the finale, but for the most part, the buildup, the stories, how everything unfolds little by little, I think it's good, and I think it's scary because, like you said, it happens in your own home. This family lives in this suburban area, which looks really expensive, by the way. That house looks like a castle, so it's not like
Yeah.
everybody could afford that back in the 80s. But it's scary because it feels like, shoot, if it could happen to them, it could happen to me. And they're, like you said, it is in their safe space. And so I think that fear really does something to people when they watch it.
Yeah, I'm I'm on the fence between really liking the scary elements of this haunted house and then now as an adult watching it going, okay, but why? Like I found myself asking like, well, why is the house haunted? And why is there this beast that's holding souls back that the souls are
Sure.
haunt?
Yeah.
There was just some confusion in that I got lost in after I got past the fact that I still from the opening scene was scared. I was like, I saw the TV and I was
Yeah.
instantly transported back to being a kid again in that static and feeling like,
Yeah.
oh my God, she's gonna get sucked into the TV.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's the
shit's
practical effects. What happens in
yeah,
this, right? They're
yeah,
so minimal that they work though. It's static TV. It's
yeah.
static TV and it plays on your fears. You were scared watching it.
Yeah.
So,
Some work, some don't. Some of the effects, while obviously good for 40 years ago, 45 years ago, don't hold up great. And again, it starts to as the ending creeps along, you start to
yeah.
get to like a little bit of like what is happening and why is I don't know. I was kind of losing it at the end, and I feel like knowing what I know about this film, there were too many cooks in the kitchen.
Okay.
Spielberg was working on this while he was working on E.T. He was executive producer on this and he wrote this. He
Hmm.
actually wanted to direct this, but Tobe Hooper passed on E.T. And so Spielberg had
Yeah.
to direct E.T. He could not be involved completely in this as he wanted to be. And so you get just like it felt very much like two films. It because of the PG rating, because Spielberg wanted that PG rating, I feel like it's toned down too much. I almost want to see a version of this that Tobe Hooper had full reins on, that maybe didn't have so much Spielberg, making it feel more kid-like and more
Okay.
family-friendly.
So I'll play the devil's advocate on that and say that
Please.
I liked it because Tobe Hooper, who was famous for directing the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, right? I mean, those
Yeah.
are brutal, gory, and just downright
Yeah.
disturbing. I kind of liked it. I kind of liked that there's two cooks in the kitchen here,
Mm.
Spielberg and Hooper, and for the most part, I think it works. I mean, it worked as a child. It scared me as a kid, and now watching it, I think it's there's some elements that are still scary. Once we get past everybody kind of having fun with this entity, and all the chairs are being stacked, you get thrown into the mix, right? There's this whomping willow tree that starts eating Robbie, which you have no idea why he starts eating Robbie, and here we go. Right? Everything starts
Yeah.
happening, and then Carol Ann gets sucked in by this entity or the beast. We have no idea who this beast is, though. Like you said, a lot of questions.
Hmm.
Is it Satan? Is it the devil? Is it just souls trapped in the house? We don't know, right?
Hmm.
But enter. What's her name? Gosh, she has a name. I know it's Tangina. Her name is Tangina, played
Yeah.
by the legendary Zelda. I don't know what her last name is, but she is such.
Rubenstein?
I
Rubenstein.
don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
she's like 3 foot nothing, and she is just a badass when she comes in. It's like she just commands the screen when she comes in. I love it. I loved her.
She does. Yeah. She's another one of those memorable characters
Yeah.
that you instantly hear that voice and you're like, oh my God, I'm transported back to when I first saw this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of good to it. A lot of good to it. I still really enjoy it. I think that I just, the things that you can forgive or forget when you're a kid, and then you start watching movies more and more, kind of don't slip through the same. So
Yeah.
once I get past the jump scares of the clown taking the
Oh, that's
kid,
good though.
that was so good. And
What happens at
um,
the end though?
yeah, but I mean, it's still all the stuff like
Yeah.
that happens. Like it still got me. Those things
Mm,
still got me. It's just that the the whole some of the parts I had some issues with. Yeah, but I mean, still
okay.
really entertaining. Still
The,
really.
the the ending is what actually, now watching it, I had more questions in the ending. It's like, wait a
Mhm.
minute, why are these bodies rising up now? They've been living in this place for like 6, 7 years. Why now?
Right.
Why just this house? Yeah, we see little explosions around the neighborhood, but then the house itself starts, it implodes and just goes away. Why? Like,
Yeah.
and another thing, you're making the kids sleep again in the same room that they were. One was, taken by a demon,
Yes.
and you're making them sleep in that
Yeah.
same room again. Come on, really?
That's the stuff where like maybe I'll forgive it's a young Spielberg, because there's another scene where the construction workers are working in the backyard and they're sexually harassing the daughter, and the mom
Yeah.
just laughs it off like,
Yeah.
oh, boys will be
Uh,
boys. Like they're
yeah.
literally harassing your daughter and you just like laugh it off. And I know the daughter flipped them off and handled it herself, but like what mom would sit there and do that? Like what
The
mom would sit there
80s.
and allow that? It's
Yeah.
just
The
come on.
80s were wild, people. The
Come on,
80s were
Stephen.
wild.
That's
Okay, let's rate. You want to rate?
that's right.
All right.
Ah.
What are we going with? TVs. TVs. 1 to 5. One TV bad. Five TVs great. All right, my man. You're going first.
All right. I'm torn. I
Okay.
really, really loved this as a kid. And I
Yeah.
actually thought this was one of the scariest movies ever for the longest time.
Sure.
Um, I don't think it holds up very well.
Okay.
I'm a little disappointed. I'm going to go with three TVs.
Okay.
Uh,
Hey, three's not
I
a bad score, man.
No, it's not a bad score. I wanted it to be a four,
Yeah.
and I think I'm wrestling with the fact that like I held this in such high regard, and I haven't watched it in so long
Yeah.
that it just doesn't have the same feeling that I did
Okay.
when I was a kid. But it's still a good movie. It's still well done. It's still well worth the watch. Shit, it still got me, and I jumped a couple times, so I'm giving it three solid TVs.
That's good. I love it. Okay. Hey, listen, I'm going in with a three as well. Three solid TVs, a really high three. It's not a 3.5. It's not a four. It plays on a lot of fears. It plays on like a fear of your child being abducted, not knowing what to do and feeling helpless and your child's in trouble. You can hear your child, but you can't see your child. I mean, as a
Mhm.
parent, that's got to be horrifying. Um, so I'm going with the three TVs. And again, this movie has a lot of controversy around it with the deaths with the little girl and the daughter. I mean, it just adds to the mystique of this movie. So three. I think it still holds up. Not great, but hey, it's got some good scares in it, and it's not like jump scares all the time. It's a lot of plays on certain type of fears that it's not just all paranormal, but it's
Mhm.
good. And who's the beast? Is it the devil? Come on, somebody tell me. Who's the beast?
Yeah, and why did he suck the entire house into? It goes from this haunted to demonic, and yeah,
Yeah.
you got to pick a lane. But hey,
Yeah.
shout out to Craig T. Nelson, Mr. Incredible himself, for the "you moved the headstones but didn't move the bodies."
He said it
That
like five
line,
times
yeah,
too
that
to make sure
line
that the
yelling,
audience got it.
he just gets just bigger and bigger with it every time he says it. I loved that
Yeah.
part. So,
Yeah. Cool. All right, man.
all right, folks, thanks for tuning in to another episode of FYC Film Review. I'm your host, Gagne, my partner Naldo's with me, and we'll catch you next time.